two-part episode, and we're going to start by celebrating the last day of Bolt's world's largest hackathon. And then after that, we're going to dig into, give you a little demo and a little preview of what the application and the experience we brought when we showed up to Render Atlanta earlier in the month. And to help me with this show today, I've got Demetrius Clark. Hey, Dom.
What's going on, everybody?
So it's a little hot in your house right now. Yeah.
It's like the hottest week that Jersey has had probably in the last couple of years. And yeah, the air decided to poop out, but we're here and we're making it work.
All right. That's what we got to do. Okay, so yeah, speaking of cooking, I guess we're gonna cook something up using Bolt. So today is the final day to submit uh, a submission to your site to Bolt and to this world's largest hackathon. And I mean, it's really been amazing to see a lot of these projects come in. But you know, Dom, well. First, I should say, I think what we should do here is show how fast and easy it is to create something. So even if you're seeing this for the first time today, even if it's near the end of the day, hey, if you got 30 minutes, you can actually put something pretty amazing together. Um, so Dom, what do you think what should we create today?
What do we build? I mean, I think one of the coolest things that I've been seeing the hackathon entries has been they've all been around uh like fulfilling a specific subset. Like I know we had one of the chat bots for helping new mothers was a really cool submission that I had seen. And I think I'm seeing a lot of other submissions kind of hit that how could I help businesses get up and running quickly? And so let's do something like that, setting up something for some type of business, whether that be maybe a restaurant order menu would be really cool. Maybe something, I don't know, something that people could bring to their local communities pretty quickly using, I think tools like this would be awesome.
Oh, I think that's a great one. So with something like I just opened up a new restaurant. What's the name of your restaurant?
Um, oh, hold on. Let them cook.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
It's
Trademark pending. Do not steal this from me.
Wait, what do we got to pick next? What kind of cuisine?
Um, I feel like you're asking the Jersey guy what kind of cuisine, and I'm just gonna say sandwiches and pasta.
Yes.
That's that's just the go-to stereotype.
I love it. I feel like that was this is one of my go-to examples is opening up a local bakery slash sandwich shop.
Sandwich shop. That's the
I
way to go.
let's do it. So it focuses on sandwiches in yeah, what town are you in?
I'm in Deptford, New Jersey.
How do I spell that? Is it
Deptford? Deptford.
Oh, okay. All right.
Welcome to New Jersey.
We have the best sandwiches way around. But okay, so while we're working through this, one thing we can do, and this is pretty cool, especially if you're new to prompting these AI agents in general, is that there's really an art form I found for getting this right, and it can kind of take a while to hone that skill. So if I'm going to start, and I haven't done much of this before, then I would probably say, make me a website that includes maybe some photos of our food, a menu, and contact information. And what have you used this thing at all here? This enhanced prompt button?
The enhanced prompt, yeah, it's pretty cool.
So let's do that. I'm going to click that button, and it's going to take just these two paragraphs and expand it into something that's very specific. And then what you can do is we haven't submitted anything, so we haven't asked the agent to actually build anything yet that you can walk through and say, is this right? And you can adjust some of those details. I'm not going to read this. I'll just let this roll. And so this will take a few minutes to cook up, and then we'll show you the process of being able to preview, adjust, and deploy to Netlify. But while that's working, um, you know, Dom, we've played around with a lot of AI tools, and what do you find is most valuable, or when, maybe what I should say is, when do you make Bolt your go-to tool?
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like for one of the cool things that I think a platform like Bolt and other platforms like it give you is that very fast time to start. Whether you're technical, non-technical, I think it really puts you into a position where one of the hardest parts, I think there are two hard parts to building applications: figuring out what you're going to build and what it's going to look like and all of the processes that you're going to need to scaffold the beginning of that project. And then that like last 15 to 20% of your app, right? Like those two things are like hands down the hardest part of, I think, building any type of real website and product. And so I think Bolt does a really good job at removing the friction at getting started with something, even if it's not exactly what you're looking to, like what you envision, may not be spit out immediately by any of these services, right? You could be doing this in Windsurf, Cursor. It doesn't matter. It's all from the same styles of models and prompting. But what it does is it puts you into a position where you can say, I really want to use these technologies. I really want to get started with X, Y, and Z for this project. Can you get that started for me? Can you scaffold that out with a UI that I can functionally test and move along with? I think that is like such a superpower in getting that first, because I realistically it gets that first like 20% out of the way. And so you really only have to worry about the details, which is what you want to be worried about as a developer anyway.
Do you generally like that let's say it's that 20%, and
Yeah.
that have you kind of like refined the way you prompt to try to get you there and stop there so that you can iterate, or do you have other practices where you can try to get yourself even further along?
I think for me, and we'll talk about this a little more when we go over the AX Arcade app, which I used fully inside of Windsurf, working with multiple different models to kind of find the one that I thought worked well for me. Um, Working in DevRel, you have spent a lot of your time doing the first 20%, right? Like your whole career lays in this really odd space between staying really technical and embedded when not building on a project anymore. And I did UI engineering for the first 3 years, so like I've been embedded on product teams and worked on features. But when you're on DevRel, you don't really get the chance to work on these kind of embedded features that many customers are using. And so with DevRel, you kind of get really good at that first 20%. You get really good at knowing, like, this is what I want my tooling to look like. This is the framework I like to use, or these are the frameworks that I like to use. And most of the time, I don't know if you do this, but I set up templates for myself so many times of just getting started quickly. So for me, I think this removed a lot of that friction. And now what I can do is I can set up rules for my tools. Hey, this is how I like to code. These are the tools I like to use. This is what I expect you to use when you're using the tool. It's just a lot easier to prepare yourself for the many different demos that you're going to have to do. And then when it does come to, for instance, building like the AX Arcade app, you start to realize, like, there's only so much you can prepare. Like, there's still only so much that you can prepare. And B, it's nice to have a consistent rubber duck. Like, people can say what they want about, LLMs and the strength that they bring you, but we've all agreed, I think anybody can agree, that speaking your mind about the problem that you're working on, sometimes fixes the problem for you. Like going and doing a walk or taking a shower, like you'll be sitting there and be like, wait a second, that's exactly what I should do. But also like having someone who is, and you can make them less agreeable, but having someone who is agreeable and I often will prompt and say, like, listen, hurt my feelings. Like, do not try and assuage me so that I feel good. Make sure that what I'm doing is right. And so like having that type of like check-in system with something is really nice. I really enjoyed that. So I think just preparing yourself, preparing the tool that you're going to use with as much context as possible, like the button for Bolt that kind of understands that like how you write things and how the bot is going to interpret those things can be completely different. So making it terse, making it direct, and not worrying about, you're not hurting someone's feelings anymore, right? Like you're not talking to a teammate, you're talking to an AI, you're talking to a model. And so I don't know, you get the opportunity to be a little bit more direct and terse with them.
100%, 100%. Well, looks like we have a website here, which is kind of amazing. Every bite tells a story. Look at this. Look at this
I love
sandwich
that.
here. You know what's interesting? So it put this online order button in, and it's not. It doesn't do anything now, but it's putting that placeholder in there for you, where you can actually, then we could iterate and we could wire up a service, we could accept payments and all that kind of stuff. But you see, scroll through, we've got a
All
legit
I'm saying
site.
is that businesses forever have paid so much money to do very simple pages like this.
Yep.
You know, and don't be wrong, agencies got to eat, freelancers got to eat. I'm all for the business that this brings others as well. But like to be able to do to spit out something like this, like people would pay for this on like a WordPress theme, right? Like they like, this is what people have been wanting but unable to kind of get without expertise. And I think that is the power that we're looking at.
100%. Yeah, I've had some really good conversations recently. We had a friend of mine owns an agency, and we've talked a lot about like, well, what does the future of the dev shop look like? And I think a big portion of that is going to be it's going to be become. I think it'll split. It'll be like part will go really deep into these tools
Yeah.
and really push them as far as they can, and then there's another part of it that has been there for a while, which is that consultancy to marketers and to other folks who have now they have more at their fingertips, and it's going to become more of a like helping folks use that power.
Yeah, and I think there's still like an action of the developer to make them feel unique, right? Like I feel like the same thing that we ran into with the Bootstrap era, with the WordPress era, with the WordPress with Bootstrap era, even now with some of the tools that we see in the UI libraries that we use, like the ease of a tool to go and find the many, which is these well-built sites based on standards, is that all of these sites can start to have a very similar feel and look. And so I think that's where agencies and freelancers and companies can still dig in. And I've worked with some really talented designers, and like there's no way that an AI is matching a designer at this point with some of the people that I've worked with. And so there's still a little bit of work that can be done, I think, on the experience and design of these sites. Whereas I could have a business and be a business owner and have spun this up and been ecstatic because it looks better than 99% of the things that I would have done.
Yes.
But I also could be a business owner that says, hey, that's great, but I'd like this, and this done. And that's where you can get into your prompting journey and learn how to get that done yourself. But I think that's a lot where you can move towards having the expertise still of like seeing so many sites and having dealt with building so many, you start to get the eye. So I think there's still a lot of teamwork to make the dream work.
Yes, well said. And that's where I focus the last office hour session last Friday. I had Sam Cap on, and we talked a lot about just how you can refine some of those styles that get generated. We're going to come back and have her on again and do something a bit more practical. But yeah, that's a good one to check out. Okay, so while you're talking, I hit this deploy button, and now it tells me it has already deployed my site, and that's where Netlify comes into play. And boom, we have a site live in production. We could now go claim, if you didn't already have a Netlify account, you could claim it. You can add a custom domain.
Can I be a stickler?
Yeah, do it.
Resize the window for me.
You want it? Oh, we want to see if
it's responsive. Yeah.
Let's do this thing. Oh, we got it. We have a mobile menu.
We have a mobile menu. And this is the craziest part. We didn't even say, hey, make sure that it works across devices. And it just did it.
It just did it.
And like that is like speaking to a business owner who may not have the technical acumen to be like, hey, make sure this works across all devices. Like what a win for those folks.
100%. Absolutely. Okay. Well, with that, let's do a hard pivot here, and I'm going to stop sharing. I want to talk about, just a couple weeks ago, we were together in Atlanta, and we really showed up a big. We created with many of our teammates created this concept of the AX arcade and built an app to go alongside that. So I thought it'd be really interesting to share with folks how that works, because I saw some people's eyes light up like, wait, you're using an app for this arcade thing? What's going on? So maybe you can, Dom, give us a little bit of background and what the actual concept was, and then we can start looking at the app.
Yeah, sure. Big fan of Render. I've been going literally since the beginning. And for me, I keep such a close eye on its growth and what that's meant, and how do you keep the attention and the excitement of such a large audience and such a large crew. And I think Justin and crew, they deal with that every year, right? In how they create a space for different talks and different tracks and different styles of talk, and even having like silent disco talks inside of the exhibition area. Like this is something that I'm sure him and his team literally meet on week to week to try and perfect. And so, when I was brought on to help with the render booth, I was really excited because that's something I really care so deeply about. And so, I think when I started ideating about like what do you do to collect people in like a FOMO driven environment? Like it's every person that I ever talk to when they go to render, they go to one talk and they miss another, or 4 talks are going on at the same time with people that they really love. And so like, how do you get them into the exhibition area where all of the other phenomenal sponsors are, and compete and move your way into being a booth that people remember? And so I started brainstorming. Render's theme this year was a carnival. And my whole childhood was like Dave and Buster's and arcades, and going to the local mall and watching people sweat profusely while playing DDR Max. Like that was my childhood and my teenage years. And so, I thought like, wouldn't it be cool to, it's a 2-pronged approach, right? Like you want people to know about your brand. You want brand reactivity. You want people to know who you are. You want them to know what you are. But you also have to get them to come to the booth and stay and stick around for an amount of time. And so, we started like brainstorming, like what would a booth full of games look like? What would it look like to come and experience something, come and take a picture with your friends and want to come back later, right? And maybe play a few games and have some fun, go watch some talks and come back. And so I thought of the AX arcade, and then thankfully like the team is just full of superstars and was able to help take my idea and turn it into something really I think usable. Like I think what I had ideated was fun and exciting, but like how do you build it into something that our partners, we had 3 partners with us inside of this 30 by 30 booth. Like it's a really complicated space to not do too much in, but not do too little. You don't want to take up too much space, but you want to fulfill the space. And so, long story short, we basically pushed forward on having kind of a game-centric booth. Each sponsor, us included, would have a game at their booth. This kind of was the idea of like, how do we get people talking to the sponsors in a really like natural way, in a way that allows them to not feel like they're being like sold to or marketed to. Like I tell people all the time, developers are the hardest audience to serve as a seller, as a marketer, because when I worked in retail, I sold you shoes that you had no idea about. You didn't know who made them, where they were made, what they were made of. Like you were ignorant to the shoe other than you like the style. In tech, like it is not the case. Like, how it was built, why it was built, the 40 other competitors that exist around it. And so I think you have to be really creative with when you engage developers. And so, I think we went the game route. And then one of the big problems we have was I wanted to do a ticketed system, kind of like Dave and Buster's or like Chuck E. Cheese, where if you won enough games, you can come up and get some prizes, and then have some really cool prizes that I think, really excited a lot of the community members that came. And all of that is really tiring to do with physical tickets. And I think it was Sam actually who had brought up, like, what if we made the ticketing platform into an app? And so we kind of took it from there, and Sam actually ran with it and built a prototype inside of Bolt. And so I had something to start with. I had a project to start with, and which was really cool because I think that we talk often about how AI is really good at like getting your projects, and we just showed like how quickly you can spin one up. But I think it's even better when it has something to reference, when it has an idea and it already has structure to what it is building from. Don't be wrong, that brings a lot of headaches with it as well. But when you can reference a code base and say, hey, like, we're not going to be building with this XYZ technology, we'll build with, TUV technology, but we want to keep a lot of the same ideas. So yeah, we were able to build a ticketing app, leaderboards, all types of I built like a really custom authentication flow with Work OS, which was definitely its own undertaking. And yeah, I don't know. It turned out to be like a hit. Like I think the booth went really well, but a lot of folks being like, how did you build this app? Like, where do I get this app? Can I use it for my conferences? And so I think that was like it was like a really fulfilling feeling to have other people see the use of something like that. And I mean, we constantly, do events, and over my career, I've constantly done events, and it would be so nice to have an app at those events to be able to do a lot of the tracking that we end up trying to do, either like through an email list or scanning badges. Yeah, I don't know. It just really ended up being a win, which was awesome.
Yeah. So what were a few of the I mean, it came together in less than a month, I think, which is the kind of the amazing piece of it, because it was not a simple application to build.
Yeah.
So yeah, what were a few of those key moments or components or tools that you used that you felt like had the biggest impact?
Yeah, I think for me, I think Astro has just always been a tried and true framework when I need something done. And so I think reaching for Astro eventually was where I landed, and it just made it so much easier to just not have to worry about everything else and just get the project done. I can trust its defaults. I can somewhat trust the AI with its defaults because there's a lot more projects out there with it. And yeah, so I think I always give love to Astro and the crew over there. I love the framework. I love using it. And I love the people. It makes it a lot easier when you love the people. Shout out to Fred and team. Other than that, for me, I always lean on React. It's been my whole career. And so, it's just really nice to be able to, and we even talked about it, we lean too much on the client side and inside of the app, but it just makes it so much easier when that's what you've known throughout your career is fetching your APIs and doing something with the data. And there's definitely, I think, a lot that Astro does now to make it easier to even do kind of server first style loading for your pages. But yeah, React has always been really useful for me, and so I'm really happy with that. But honestly, like, eventually I ended up using I was between Gemini 2.5 Pro and Claude. I think I ended with Claude 3.7 by the end, just because I was trying to not rank up credits by an insane amount. But yeah, I think, I tested a few different models. That was a super headache. You realize a lot of them. This is where I think prompting is a skill, and I think people are starting to realize that themselves. Prompting is a skill. You have to really learn, like, how to handhold properly with an AI, but also just understanding the output. Like, I think a lot of the time, some of the AI projects that we see have a lot more trust in the model than I do, and so having a thorough review process that I started to build my review process into the prompt itself, where I would say, hey, like, before you get started, I have to understand what you're doing and what changes you're making. So before you make these changes, or as you're making these changes, let's do like a review and make sure that the right things are going in. And sometimes I would have to, hop in and code myself, which I think is still the fun part for me. But I'm not as obsessed with it needing to be the fun part. The fun part is like what I get from it. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think learning your models. I talked about this with Tracy at Render a little bit. Learning the models testing out the models, understanding what they're good at and what they're bad at. That was a big, huge, I think, a help for me. And then, yeah, I think like all of the tooling together once I was in Astro really kind of came together. We used WorkOS for the authentication. We used Neon for the database. We used, like I said, Astro, Netlify for domain and deployment. And so I don't know. It's just like, I think we've always said this. I think over the last 5 years, we keep saying it, like, this is the best time to be a developer because the tooling is so amazing. I think as we build deeper into AI, the tooling almost becomes obfuscated, right? Like, unless you really know what you're doing and you're dug deep into the code, the tooling almost becomes obfuscated and it becomes the idea. But I still love that AIs can be dumb too. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
yes. It's reassuring
nice,
in a way.
it's nice to know that, like, sometimes I have to strong arm it myself and still have the knowledge to hop in and find the bug that it's created after looping itself like 4 times. So yeah, I would say it was in a month. It was a very frustrating process. Just learning, right? Like learning how to really build a product with alongside AI. And I think we talked about this a little bit in the last week's sprint. Was at a certain point you're just like, I hope this I hope AI is writing this and it works when we get slammed with what ended up being almost 1,000 people coming to the booth. And we still found our issues. We still found faults that got into the code. But being able to, like, that was another cool thing that I don't think a lot of people talk about, like live action debugging while in prod and kind of having to use prod as your testing zone just to get people moving. I mean, so many times you saw me run over to the couch and I'm sitting there with AI, like, here's the exact scenario that happened with a user, and here's where the bug is happening. And we were able to like ship quick and iterate right in the booth.
We deployed so many times throughout those 2 days.
I don't even want to think about how many times it was.
I think that was going into it, because I've done this sort of thing too in the past, and I was like, one thing is going to happen is that something's going to be broken, because you can test it, but you can't test it to the extent that you can when people are actually going to use it
right
during the event. So it's like, okay, something's going to break. We're going to have to fix it on the fly. And so that, I felt like it was so different this time to have AI right there and to be able to debug. And we had prepared for it. So we put some of these little triggers into the database and into the logic as well. So it's like, if this goes wrong, we can also
fail safes.
We can hard code this. But I don't want to keep you too long, and we don't have to go super deep. But I thought I pulled up the app here. Maybe you could just give us a quick. We can take a quick tour. You tell me where to click and.
Yeah, so I think let's talk about like what the expectation was for the user, right? Like what were we expecting from them, and what was the process of them using the app, and how did that work? So basically, when you came into the booth, like immediately you were like overwhelmed. You're like, what the heck is all this? This is so cool. Who is Netlify? We got that a ton of times, because I think what I'm seeing now as a less technical crowd starting to be more interested in the technical and what's happening. And so I think what the really cool part about this is that we got to reach out a lot of non-technical or moving into technical folks to see what Netlify is and what it could do with an app that we built for the booth itself. Like, what a cool way to be like, yeah, like I actually use Netlify to deploy this thing that you're using right now. So when they landed, basically the idea was you immediately get 10 tickets. The tickets were what we were using to track the leaderboard, and we can go into the prizes in a bit, but to redeem prizes, we did this all through the app. And so as soon as you landed, you'll see you have 40 tickets because you did some things, but you'll land with 10 tickets, and you can kind of start moving into just immediately playing the games. And so as a user, you would land, and then for the most part, this was it. This is all you had to do in the beginning to get started. Then when you go over to a booth, you would play. Every booth had a 2-player game, which I thought was really fun and cool to get everybody kind of energized into being like, who's going to win and who's going to lose. even the losing person would get tickets. So that was one of the cool things that we decided to do was nobody loses tickets, only people win tickets. And so you have no real feels bad when it comes to the booth. Even if you lose, you get some tickets towards the prize wall. And so, for us now, I think let's pivot to the admin section really quick to where we were generating our QR codes. Yeah. And so like, basically we had this idea of like, how the heck are we going to make it easy to do ticket transactions inside of the app, and in a way that's not going to make people feel like they have to sit there and like noodle with you on how to get these tickets. And so we decided QR codes would be the best route. And so if you win or lost, we were generating you a QR code that would immediately redeem the prizing or the tickets on your end, right? So you would scan this QR code, and then on your side, it would bring you back to the app, hopefully logged in, and redeem your tickets for you. And then what that redemption would do is that would add tickets to your account, and then also a few other things. We would immediately use the transaction and store it in the database so that we couldn't be reusing QR codes, which I really liked. And then also we had it where when you redeemed, it set off a couple of flows, right? Not only would it update the tickets in your account, I would also update the idea of the leaderboard, where the most tickets were coming from and who the most tickets were coming from. So a few transactions in place for that to happen. And I think that was a really interesting and hard, honestly, part of the project to make sure was right. I mean, even you and I went back and forth a few times on trying to figure out like what is the right transaction set for this kind of multi-layered approach of ticketing. And so I think we ended up with a pretty good idea of what that should look like and what that could look like. And so, yeah, now you've got your developer rankings for the leaderboard. And like, we had this up on a TV inside of the lounge. And like, every time people would like win, like, and I'm telling you, like, I've never seen more grinders than this. Like, I remember having the conversation with you and team and being like, there's going to be some grinders. Like, there's going to be some people who come and are just like, I'm winning the top prize. I'm gaming. Like, I'm going to make it. Way more people than I thought ended up grinding the games. And so we got to have people kind of checking in with the leaderboard and like asking like who's the top one, how do I beat them, and so again, it created this like, in a really FOMO driven environment, it created a really fun and exciting engagement piece, I think, for a lot of the community.
Absolutely. And the other the other thing I was gonna call out, because it was we kind of like reused that logic of the ticket redemption or the reverse of it. And so we had somebody who was sitting at the prize table and they could manage this. Basically also came with this whole inventory system as well. And so when somebody wanted to say get a mug, it would generate a QR code, and then when that QR code got redeemed, it would remove the points from that person or the tickets from that person's account, and then also knock down our inventory by one as well. But yeah, that was I don't know, it's very, very cool. I'm hoping we can show it to the world again soon.
Yeah, I'm excited to, I think, and then like you can go to our challenges. I think that's another really cool piece that we had implemented. Basically, so what you're seeing now is our final challenge that we were looking to give from Netlify, but we had each booth there operate within having a developer challenge that people could vibe code inside of the booth to also get tickets. Just another way to like engage with the sponsors and build something cool. We saw a lot of really cool things come out of this while we were there. And, I think that, again, it's like really, really digging into like, yes, there is a way to market to developers. Yes. Like there, you can find ways to do it in a way that I think is palatable. But there's also a lot of really cool ways that you can have fun with it and enjoy the experience of talking with sponsors. Like, it's one of the hardest parts, right? Like, even just being like a community member myself, like when I go to a conference and I'm talking to a booth, sometimes I'm sorry, I don't care to be pitched to or sold to at the moment. Like, either I'm looking for a job and I'm really interested in working for the company, or sometimes, and I've had this, as a booth worker myself, where people are like generally interested in like, how do I use your product better? We already use it at work. Is there ways that I can connect with your team to, possibly help review what we're doing? And I don't know, I think there's a lot of really cool things that come from a booth, but it's really hard to operate properly. And I think this year we still learned a lot. Like, there's still things that we're going to work on and probably change or update about if we were to do something like this again. But what a landslide, like what a hit it ended up being. I think, you know, if you're out there and you showed up at the booth, you definitely heard me. There's no way you could miss me. I was having a good time. Like I was yapping it up with anybody that came in, and worked some of the games. That was another fun part, was working the games, like playing the games with the community members. But, you know, I think everybody by the end was coming up and being like, you guys blew this booth away. Like there's no, I've never had more fun at a booth. I heard many times. And like that is such a fulfilling feeling, especially having done everything from scratch, like having built the app ourselves, having thought of this. I've never seen arcade games like this, or like you could call them carnival games. It was like the basketball game, and we had ring toss, which is like the hardest game I've ever played in my life.
Yes.
And I've never done that at a booth. And so I think it was a really unique experience, and I had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, Dom, thanks for being on today. And thank you all for watching again. And just one more reminder, there's still time left to join that Bolt Hackathon. Go to hackathon.dev, get started, deploy to Netlify, and that's it. We'll see you next time.
And if you need any help, you know where to find us on the internet. Just reach out and let us know, and we're happy to help you get across the line for this last submission day.
Exactly. All right.
Thanks, y'all.
See y'all next time.
See ya.